sometimes will miss some of these red flags. Even when Christine moved his stuff out, I really think he thought, we'll figure.
The air inside the courtroom was cold. Too cold for comfort, too quiet for peace. Every sound seemed to echo, even the nervous tapping of a single pen against a wooden desk. Kody Brown sat there, his hands clasped tight, his jaw stiff with the kind of tension that no man could hide. He'd faced arguments before, fights before, even the crumbling of his entire family, but never this. Not like this. This was the day he had always feared would come. The day when the truth he had buried deep under layers of excuses, faith, and manipulation would finally surface. In a court of law. Across the room sat Meri Brown. Her face was calm, unreadable, but her eyes told a different story. Those eyes that once looked at Kody with loyalty, devotion, and desperate hope now carried something sharper. Something colder. Justice. Beside her lay a folder. A thick, carefully organized collection of papers that had the power to end Kody's facade forever. Inside were years of evidence. Transactions, messages, recordings, and the one thing Robyn prayed would never see the light of day. Meri's secret evidence. The judge entered. Everyone stood. And for the first time in a long time, Kody's confidence wavered. He tried to hold his composure. He had spent years portraying himself as the spiritual head of a polygamous empire, the man who preached unity while secretly feeding chaos. But now, under the cold stare of the court, even his voice seemed small. "Mr. Brown," the judge said, looking directly at him, "you're here today to answer for financial misconduct, emotional abuse allegations, and the misappropriation of shared assets. Do you understand the charges?" Kody swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Honor." From the gallery, a hush fell over everyone. Cameras from the tabloids outside had already labeled this, the Brown family trial. The story of America's most controversial polygamist now had a new chapter, one darker than the rest. Meri sat silently, her hands folded neatly. She didn't glance at Kody, not once. She had prepared for this day for months, maybe even years. When the world thought she was broken, she was gathering strength. When Kody and Robyn thought she'd walked away quietly, she was collecting proof. Now that proof was about to speak louder than any of them ever could. The first witness was called. A former accountant of the Brown family's shared business, who nervously adjusted her glasses before speaking. "Yes, I handled most of their joint financial records," she said. "And I was instructed to move funds into an account under Robyn's name, without the consent of the other wives." The courtroom buzzed. Kody's lawyer objected immediately, but the damage was already done. Robyn's hand tightened around her purse. Her lips trembled. For years, Robyn had been seen as the favorite wife, the one who managed to win Kody's full devotion while the others slowly drifted away. But behind closed doors it was always more complicated. The money, the decisions, the manipulations, all threads tied to a bigger scheme. And now Meri had pulled that thread loose. As the witness spoke, Meri's lawyer stood and opened the folder. "Your Honor, we have records showing that these unauthorized transfers match personal purchases made by Mrs. Robyn Brown. Expensive jewelry, property in Flagstaff, and unaccounted transactions from the shared family fund." Kody's face turned pale. His lawyer leaned in and whispered something, but Kody didn't respond. His mind was already spinning. How much did Meri know? How deep did she dig? When Meri finally rose to take the stand, the entire room seemed to shift. Gone was the timid, soft-spoken woman fans remembered from early Sister Wives episodes. This Meri was different. Stronger. Unbreakable. She took a deep breath and looked directly at Kody. "For years I believed in our family. I believed in him," she said, her voice steady but full of ache. "But belief doesn't pay bills. Belief doesn't excuse deceit. And belief doesn't make you blind forever." Kody shifted uncomfortably. The judge nodded for her to continue. "I gave him everything," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "My time, my loyalty, my youth. I helped build what we called a family, but when it was convenient, that family turned its back on me. He told me I wasn't enough, that God wanted him elsewhere. But it wasn't God. It was greed. It was manipulation. And it was lies." The room was silent again, except for the faint sound of someone's stifled sob. Robyn lowered her head, tears welling up as Meri's lawyer displayed the next piece of evidence on the screen. A series of emails between Kody and Robyn discussing redirecting funds before the family's official separation. The audience gasped. Robyn's face turned crimson. Kody jumped up furious. "Those emails are out of context," he shouted, his voice echoing across the courtroom. This is an attack on my family." "Sit down, Mr. Brown," the judge ordered sternly. But Kody couldn't. His ego had taken over, the same ego that once made him believe he could control every woman in his life. "This is a witch hunt," he said, pointing toward Meri. "She's trying to destroy me because she's bitter. Because she couldn't handle—" "Enough," the judge snapped. The gavel slammed down and the sound hit Kody like thunder. For a moment even he went quiet. Meri's lawyer calmly walked to the bench, submitting another document. A financial statement showing over $120,000 in unreported joint income, diverted into a secret account tied to Robyn's signature. That was it. The courtroom erupted. Reporters outside scrambled for their phones. The Brown Empire, the picture-perfect family that once stood on faith, love, and shared values, was now collapsing under the weight of its own secrets. Kody slumped in his seat, face red with rage and fear. Meri sat tall, her eyes fixed on the judge. "Your Honor," her lawyer said softly, "we believe this evidence not only shows financial wrongdoing but a deliberate attempt to silence and exclude Mrs. Brown from her rightful share. We're requesting the immediate freezing of all joint accounts." Robyn gasped. "You can't do that." But the judge looked unmoved. "Given the severity of the allegations, I'm inclined to agree." Kody slammed his hand against the desk. "This is ridiculous." The judge's gaze hardened. "Mr. Brown, one more outburst and I'll have you removed." And that's when it happened. That tiny flicker in Kody's eyes, the one that revealed something darker, something scared. He wasn't in control anymore. For the first time in decades, he wasn't the man calling the shots. The world that had once revolved around him was now spinning beyond his reach. Meri watched silently. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She just sat there letting the truth do its work. Because revenge wasn't about anger anymore. It was about closure. It was about reclaiming what was stolen. Not just money but dignity, trust, and truth. As the court adjourned for recess, Kody tried to stand, but the bailiff stepped forward. "Sir, you'll need to stay here until we verify these documents." Kody froze. That single moment of hesitation, the fear in his eyes, was enough. Meri didn't have to say a word. Her silence was louder than any accusation. When the judge's gavel fell for recess, the sound echoed long after everyone had stood up. Cameras flashed from the hallway as officers guided Kody away for temporary holding while documents were reviewed. Reporters swarmed like vultures waiting for the next headline. Kody Brown under legal fire. Robyn stayed behind, her face buried in her hands. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, and the perfect image she had fought so hard to maintain began to crumble. She had always been the emotional one, the sympathetic figure. But now even that sympathy was wearing thin. Across the aisle, Meri quietly organized her files. Every paper, every receipt, every email she had gathered was now part of a story that could no longer be erased. She wasn't vengeful, she was exhausted. Years of silence had hardened her, but not in bitterness, in clarity. The court officers cleared the room, leaving only the echo of whispers. "Did you see her evidence? They're done for. Robyn's finished." And somewhere deep inside, Kody knew it too. An hour later, court reconvened. The judge returned to the bench, his face unreadable, his tone precise. After reviewing the documentation and statements provided, the court finds substantial evidence of misappropriation of shared assets and fraudulent transfers conducted under joint accounts. Kody's attorney rose immediately. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding," but the judge cut him off. "Mr. Brown, please stand." The words hit harder than any insult. Kody hesitated but eventually stood, his hands trembling ever so slightly. The weight of years of dominance, control, and pride now seemed to collapse all at once. "Given the evidence," the judge continued, "and the repeated attempts to obstruct transparency, this court is ordering the temporary freezing of all Brown family shared accounts, pending full investigation." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. "And further," the judge added, "this court issues a detainment order for Mr. Kody Brown until financial records and transactions can be verified in full compliance." Robyn gasped audibly. The bailiff stepped forward. "Mr. Brown, please place your hands behind your back." For a second, Kody didn't move. He just stood there staring straight ahead as if trying to process what he'd heard. His pride battled his reality. The once untouchable patriarch, the man who ruled over his wives with divine justification, was now being placed in handcuffs. The metallic click of the cuffs echoed through the courtroom, heavy and humiliating. Cameras outside the doors flashed as officers led him out. "Meri," he shouted, twisting his head back, his voice raw with desperation. "You can't do this to me. After everything I've done for you, after everything we built." Meri didn't respond. She simply lowered her eyes and whispered almost to herself, "No, Kody. You did this to yourself." Robyn broke down completely. She sobbed uncontrollably, clutching her bag as if it could protect her from the fallout. "This isn't fair. He didn't mean to. He was trying to help the family." But the judge's voice was firm. "Mrs. Brown, this court does not deal in intentions. It deals in actions." As Kody disappeared through the courtroom doors, the silence that followed was deafening. Robyn looked up, her face streaked with tears. "Meri, why?" Meri turned slowly, her expression unreadable but her voice steady. "Because truth matters, Robyn. Because we all deserve to be seen for who we really are, not the roles we were forced to play." For the first time, Robyn didn't argue. She just stared at the floor, realizing that her carefully crafted world was collapsing, one lie at a time. The reporters outside went wild. Microphones flashed as headlines flooded the internet. "Kody Brown detained after courtroom shock." "Meri Brown's secret evidence brings Brown Empire to its knees." Robyn seen leaving court in tears as family scandal deepens. Meri exited the building quietly. No grand speech, no gloating statement. Just a woman walking away from the ruins of a life she once thought was sacred. The flashing lights surrounded her, but she didn't flinch. The crowd wanted drama, but Meri had given them truth instead. Outside, a journalist shouted, "Meri, do you have any comment?" She paused just for a second and looked toward the swarm of cameras. Then she said softly, "Sometimes justice takes time. But it always arrives." The doors of her car closed and she drove away, leaving behind a storm that would take years to settle. Inside the courthouse, Robyn sat alone on the wooden bench. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages that would never be answered. The weight of her choices pressed down on her chest. She had believed Kody could protect her, but now even he was powerless. Meanwhile, in the holding room downstairs, Kody sat in silence. The cuffs were gone, but the shame wasn't. He stared at the floor, remembering every moment he dismissed Meri's pain, every time he gaslit her into silence, every lie told in the name of faith. He wasn't a leader anymore. He was just a man stripped of the illusion of control. When the officer brought him a paper to sign, he didn't even argue. His signature shook, his pride broken. Upstairs, Meri's attorney finalized the next motion. A legal petition for compensation, citing emotional and financial damages over a decade long. The court clerk stamped it, official, irreversible. Justice in black ink. As Meri sat quietly in her lawyer's office afterward, she finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. The weight of years lifted slowly, piece by piece. She looked out the window at the gray clouds gathering over the courthouse. "It's strange," she said softly, "how peace doesn't come from winning. It comes from letting go." Her lawyer smiled gently. "You did the right thing, Meri." She nodded. "Not for revenge. For freedom." Across town, Robyn returned home to silence. The once warm house felt hollow. She placed her purse down, looked around the empty living room and whispered to herself, "What have we done?" No one answered. The phone rang, it was her attorney. She hesitated before picking up. "Mrs. Brown, the media's everywhere," he said. "You need to stay off social media, at least for now." Robyn nodded weakly. I didn't think it would go this far." The morning after the courtroom storm, the world outside felt different. The air carried whispers of scandal and the internet was already on fire. Every major entertainment outlet had the same breaking banner flashing across screens. Kody Brown in custody. Polygamist patriarch faces financial investigation. News vans lined the quiet street outside Robyn's Flagstaff home. Paparazzi crouched behind bushes, long lenses trained on her front door. What was once a symbol of spiritual unity had turned into a crime scene of deception. Inside, Robyn sat curled on the couch, her phone lighting up every few seconds. Missed calls. Voicemails. Journalists, relatives, and friends. Everyone wanted a comment. But what could she possibly say? Her eyes were swollen from crying all night. Every time she closed them, she saw that moment replay. The handcuffs glinting in the courtroom light, Kody's face twisted with disbelief, Meri's silent composure that said everything words couldn't. It was over. The illusion. The control. The perfect image. Somewhere in the distance, a news anchor's voice filled the living room from a nearby television. Viewers of TLC's Sister Wives are in shock today as Kody Brown faces allegations of financial misconduct and emotional exploitation. Sources close to the family claim that his first wife, Meri Brown, presented damning evidence, leading to his detainment. Robyn Brown was seen leaving the courthouse in tears. Robyn picked up the remote and turned off the TV. The silence was worse. In her mind, she replayed the early days, the sweet promises, the faith-driven speeches, the us against the world energy Kody once carried. She had believed every word. She had built her world around it. But now, sitting in the ruins of that faith, she realized what Meri must have felt for years. The quiet humiliation of being unseen, unheard, dismissed. A knock came at the door. She froze. Then another, louder. "Mrs. Brown, open up, it's the press. Just a comment, please." She closed her eyes and whispered, "Please just go away." In another part of Flagstaff, Meri was experiencing the same spotlight, but in a very different way. Her name was everywhere now. Meri Brown's legal victory. The wife who fought back. The Brown family saga takes a dramatic turn. Every outlet wanted an interview, every show wanted her side of the story. But Meri didn't chase any of it. She stayed silent. The truth had already spoken for her. In her small but peaceful house, she sat at her desk, looking at the court documents neatly stored in a folder labeled "Case Closed for now." There was peace in her stillness, a quiet kind of satisfaction that didn't need to scream. Her phone buzzed. It was Christine, her old sister wife. "Meri," the text read. "I saw the news. I don't even know what to say. You did it. You really did it." Meri smiled faintly. She typed back slowly, "I didn't do it to win, Chris. I did it to stop losing myself." Across the country, fans were split. Some couldn't believe Kody had fallen so far. Others said it was inevitable. Every Reddit thread, every YouTube comment section buzzed with theories, reactions, and debates. The man who once preached about celestial families and eternal love now had mugshots circulating across social media. A TMZ headline read, "Kody Brown booked. Inside the shock arrest that ends the Sister Wives legacy." Kody's loyal supporters dwindled overnight. His spiritual rhetoric no longer inspired. It repulsed. People began revisiting old clips from the show, moments that once looked like harmless family arguments but now felt like clear manipulation. Every, "It's your fault," every, "You don't respect me," every time he dismissed the women's pain, it all played differently now. Meanwhile, Kody sat in a small interrogation room. The smell of disinfectant and cheap coffee filled the air. A detective flipped through a thick binder of financial statements. "Mr. Brown, these accounts, some of them are in your name, some in your wife's. Can you explain why funds meant for a joint property were redirected into a personal business account?" Kody rubbed his face. His usual arrogance had faded. He looked older, defeated. "I was just trying to protect what's mine," he muttered. The detective raised an eyebrow. "Even if what's yours wasn't legally yours to take?" No answer. Just silence. The detective leaned back. "You know, Mr. Brown, it's interesting. Every one of your wives trusted you. You used faith as armor. But the moment one of them started asking questions, everything cracked." Kody clenched his fists. "You don't understand our lifestyle. You never could." The detective smirked. "I don't have to. I just understand numbers. And lies." He closed the file and stood. "You'll be hearing from us again soon." When the door shut, Kody finally let out a long, shaky breath. He was alone. Truly alone. That night, as he sat in a holding cell waiting for his attorney, he thought of Meri, not with affection but with fear. She had found his weakness. The truth. And now that it was out, he could never bury it again. Back at her home, Meri sat by her window, looking out at the streetlights glowing through the rain. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt earned. She opened her journal and began to write. For years I believed pain was part of faith. That silence was strength. But silence is what kept me small. I used to think forgiveness meant staying. Now I know forgiveness can mean leaving. She paused, her pen trembling slightly. Kody taught me how to lose. But life taught me how to rise. She closed the book, her heart steady. The phone rang again. This time it was a producer from a major talk show. Miss Brown, we'd love to have you come on and tell your story. Millions are rooting for you. Meri smiled faintly. Maybe someday, she said. But for now, I think I'll just live it. She hung up and turned off the lights. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. A soft reminder that even storms can bring calm after their rage passes. But for Kody and Robyn, the storm was far from over. Robyn's phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. Mrs. Brown, this is Detective Harris. We'll need you to come in for questioning regarding shared accounts and asset management. Her heart dropped. He felt dizzy. Questioning? Me? She sank onto the couch, clutching the phone. The walls felt like they were closing in. Her empire, the family she thought she secured, was turning against her piece by piece. In a nearby facility, Kody got the same message from his lawyer. Robyn's being called in next week. Things are escalating. He slammed the phone down in frustration. Why can't they just leave us alone? But deep down he knew why. For years he had built his world on the illusion of righteousness. But when the foundation is lies, truth eventually comes to collect its debt. And this time it came in the form of Meri Brown. The courthouse was silent, but the tension was deafening. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath, as if the entire building understood that something historic was unfolding. Kody Brown, once the proud patriarch of sister wives, the courthouse lights dimmed one by one, as the echoes of justice slowly faded into the night. Kody Brown sat on the bench outside, hands clasped, face hollow. The world he built on charm, control, and manipulation had finally fallen apart. The man who once dictated everyone's story had now become a cautionary tale in his own. Meri walked out through the same doors, calm and composed. No tears, no anger, just peace. For the first time in years she didn't look back. She didn't need to. Everything she once prayed the world would see was now out in the open. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Headlines flashed across every screen. Kody Brown investigated for misuse of family funds. Meri Brown's evidence exposes truth behind sister wives' empire. But Meri wasn't celebrating. She wasn't seeking revenge anymore. She had already won the only battle that mattered. The one for her self-respect. Inside the car, her lawyer turned and said, "You've changed everything, Meri. The silence you broke. It's helping more people than you'll ever know." Meri smiled softly. Then it was worth it. Across town, Robyn sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling through the endless storm of social media posts. Her world was crumbling one headline at a time. The woman once seen as Kody's loyal partner now found herself in the same silence Meri once knew. But this time there was no camera, no sympathy, no escape. Kody stood at the window staring into the darkness, the weight of everything pressed against his chest. The choices, the pride, the pain. "They turned on me," he whispered. But deep down he knew he was the one who turned away first. He closed his eyes and heard Meri's voice echoing in his mind, calm but sharp. "This isn't revenge, Kody. It's accountability." Those words burned deeper than any verdict could. Weeks later, the court released its findings, confirming the misuse of funds and ending any hope of saving Kody's crumbling reputation. TLC quietly pulled the plug on new sister wives projects. The empire was gone. Meanwhile, Meri sat by her window watching the sunset. The same light that once felt so far away now touched her face with warmth. She picked up her phone, saw hundreds of messages from people saying thank you, and put it down with a gentle smile. Peace. Real peace. That was her ending. She whispered to herself, the truth took its time but it got here. The wind outside carried away the last remnants of the old story, of broken promises and false love, leaving behind something purer. As the screen fades to black, her voice returns one last time. Some endings don't need applause. Just silence. The kind that means you finally made it out. The kind that means you're free. And then